this installment of None Too Beautiful. And if you can guess by my appearance, the topic of this episode is all about brows. It's actually going to be a two-parter, one on how to cover brows, and then part two on how to measure and draw out brows. So I get a lot of requests about how to cover up brows, particularly from gentlemen and ladies who have thicker, darker, or more coarse brows, like I do myself. And as you can see here, we have successfully covered one brow. And so I'm going to take you through the techniques and steps that I've learned from various sisters and also from a couple of different YouTube channels. And I'm going to share them with you and make them more sister specific. So let's get started. But first, have a drink and a snack. Tonight I'm going to have a little bit of champagne and a little bit of shrimp cocktail. The first thing that we're going to need is a couple of different brow products. I actually use 3 specific products, and there are a couple of different tools that I like to use as well. So the first thing that you'll need is you will need some spirit gum. So you can get spirit gum at any theater supply store. You probably already use it. Some of you even use it to apply lashes, although it stings the shit out of your eye if you're not careful. Second, you'll need a brow wax or plastic. Some people like to use, this is Kryolan's brow stick. Some people like to use glue stick as well, and I'll teach you how to use that, but it's essentially, it just replaces the brow stick product in the process. And then finally, and remember this is for really intense brow cover for very dark, thick brows, is the final product which I love more than anything in the world, and this is Kryolan's flexible sealer. So this product allows the wax to actually accept makeup better and behave in a more skin-like fashion, and that's how I can get a really good cover, and a lot of product will adhere to it. Tool-wise, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to want, one, a butter knife. And this is going to be your eyebrow butter knife from here on out. I was going to tell you to get a palette knife, like this is a makeup palette knife, but who's going to do that? So let's just go with a butter knife because it's something that we all have and something we can all get a hold of. You want to make sure that if you can, that it has a metal handle so that it's metal all the way through, because we're going to use both ends of the tool. And then next you're going to want some cold water and a rag. So you're going to want a cold water and a makeup rag, so something you don't mind getting a little bit sticky. And then the regular things that you would use for your white face. So white face powder and one additional product. So I'll talk a lot about aqua color in the series. I use a lot of it, and this is in white. Now while you would never use this to do your entire face, it's water activated and it gets really, really streaky if you're not careful. And also the moment you sweat, it goes away. But it can be really, really useful for covering brows for sisters to get a really nice, very white highlighted brow. And so we'll talk about that a little bit in the second part of this installment. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you prep your brows really well. So you can see here that my brows aren't terribly long. So if you have really long, wiry brows, clipper those sons of bitches. I generally suggest using a number 2 guard on a clipper. I actually use a number 1 towards the ends here because I don't mind drawing my eyebrows back in every day. But some of you won't definitely want to do that. But if you have really long, wiry brows, you've got to trim them because otherwise they're going to paste all the way up to your forehead. So the first step is to take our spirit gum here, and mine is lovely, comes with a brush on the inside. It's the big jar, it's the Mama Jamma. I use a lot of spirit gum for this purpose. And so what you're going to do is use this brush, and I'm going to use my mirror here to show you, and I'll get up close, is you want to paint the spirit gum into the brow, working against the grain of the brow. So you can see I'm kind of pushing it this direction to go against the grain of the brow, all the way down to the tail, going against the grain, and then paint them back this direction. You want to make sure too to cover the skin around the brow. So give yourself like a 1/4 inch margin, or maybe an 1/8 of an inch, around the brow, the top of the brow, and underneath. And what that does is it gets all of those little tiny stray hairs that you don't really know that you have, but that you do have. And so now that the brow is really nice and saturated with spirit gum, we're going to let it dry a little bit. And this is where our butter knife starts to come into play. So I'm going to let this get a little bit tacky, and then what I'm going to do is go in with the handle end of my butter knife and begin to press my brows down. You want to let the spirit gum dry from anywhere to like 2, 3, 4 minutes and get really sticky. If you go in and start doing this while it's immediately wet, you're just going to end up with a sticky mess. So I'm going to let that dry and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've let the spirit gum dry and it's starting to get really sticky. You'll also notice sometimes spirit gum gets a little warm when I think that's how my skin reacts to it, when it's starting to dry. And so I'm going to take my butter knife again and take the end of it and just in the direction of the growth of my hair, just pat everything down. You'll notice that my skin is starting to stick to the butter knife, which is good. That means that everything is starting to dry down nicely. And then I'll use my fingers and I like to dampen them with a little bit of water. What happens when you touch water to spirit gum, it actually helps it dry. It's a trick that we use backstage to get wigs to glue on faster or facial hair pieces, is to lay a damp towel or your fingers over them with a little bit of water. And that also prevents the spirit gum from sticking to my fingers. So my fingers are staying nice and clean, which is nice. And so you can see that the hair is getting really nice and pasted down. So now it's time to go in with the brow stick wax. So for those of you who have thinner brows, who don't really have this type of problem, this is a product that you can use alone. If you have like thinner brows or just not a very strongly colored brow, this product alone will hold your brows down typically. So I pull out a little bit of the wax. I used my butter knife to dig a little bit out, and I make a little ball that I then start to roll into what I like to call a little wax worm, essentially. If you ever played with Play-Doh as a kid, you probably did this. And so you begin to get a thin little piece that you can then now stick to the spirit gum on your brows. And you see me just kind of like squish it and smooth it out. So now I like to work with my knife a little bit and then with my fingers. So I'm going to go in and just start using my knife like the palette knife that it is, and really filling in all of those areas where I've got hair texture. Now I'm going to go in with my fingers and just kind of massage and move. You want to be careful though that you don't rip up the spirit gum. So you don't want to really be forceful with it too much. And then you can begin to pat the wax down. Now you can see that it's balling up here because there's a little bit too much, which is A-okay. So you just roll those extra little bits away from your skin and then just press it back down. Now the warmth of your hands and your fingerprints will actually help this look more natural. Next, I want to seal it, and so I'm going to use my waterproof, my flexible sealer, again, favorite product. And what's nice about this product is it's not like a spirit gum, so I just take it and I go over wherever I've put down the brow wax, and I'm a little liberal with it. And then I just take a finger and smooth it. Just like spirit gum, water helps this product dry faster. And so I'll take a little bit of water on a makeup towel and just quickly blot it. Not letting the towel sit too long so that way it doesn't stick to the towel. And now I've got a beautifully smooth covered brow that is ready to accept makeup. So that's part one of how to cover up the brows. And now we'll talk about camouflaging the brows and applying white face to them and how to really get that to look seamless like this brow over here. So the first product that you're going to want to use is Aqua Color. This is by MAC, but Krylon makes them as well. And you'll just need a flat brush with a little bit of water. Because this product, when you activate it, becomes a liquid or a paste, and it depends on how much water you add. So the first thing that I like to do before I do my white face is to take my brush and just go over where my really dark brow is. And this gives me just a little extra camouflage power. And you can see that the product gets kind of milky and uneven, but just let that dry. And I'll go back with just a little touch more. And really hide that brow. So now, after this is dried, white face can go over top of it. So this is the end of how to cover the brows, and now we'll talk about camouflaging and how to build the new brow in the next segment.